Hello and welcome to part two. And what we're going to do now is we're going to carry on from where we left off in the last video where we built the landing craft. This week we're going to turn our attention to painting up the crew and the boats themselves, and then do some weathering as well and take them all the way through to being ready for the table. Right, so the boats are outside. I've given them a coat of primer in Army Painter ash grey. But the Higgins boats, when they're dry, I'm going to give them a waft with this wolf grey as well, because they had more of a blue tinge, so I'm going to go with that. So in the meanwhile, I've been tidying up these figures, getting all the little bits of metal off, and now I'm just going to drop them in this water and give them a bit of a wash before I glue them together. I've got a toothbrush, an old one. Just make sure that there's nothing on them. Right, so they're all dry. I'm just going to glue these together now. Right, so I've given these all a blast. Unfortunately, and quite irritating really, I just ran out of the ash grey as I was giving these the final touch up. So these last two, I'm waiting for a tin of paint now to get them up to the same level. The Higgins boats, I'm happy with the overall colour of them now. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to paint up the figures that I've built up. And what I'll do is I'll get them painted up off camera, because you've seen me painting up the troops before, but I'll bring them back and let you have a look at them so you can see, what finishes and what colours I used. Right, back in a minute. Right, so I've put all the block colours down on my men now. And basically what I'm doing is I'm waiting for it to dry, because then I want to go through with some highlight colours and also tidy up one or two bits where I've caught the wrong piece. So I'm just letting it dry a bit. So what I've done is I've jumped ahead to make these little rope ties. If I show you that. And basically what these are for is for the Higgins boat. The little grappling or rope ties that hook over these, and then you stick them down like that. And you've got 4 each side of the boat, so you need 8 in total. And all it is really is it's a bit like making a noose. So I just cut a piece of this string, and what this is that, the string that you'd use for, sorry vegetarians out there, but for wrapping a joint of meat. So that's where you're going to find this type of string. It's got that rope kind of look to it, and that's the best way of finding it really, if you look for jointing string or something like that. So you cut your 30 centimetres, and you're not going to use all of it, but it's just to give you some working space. And then you just form a loop like that. So it's just, I've bent the string. And then what you do is you come back up. I don't need as much as that, do I? That's it. So bend the string. Bend it again, so you've got to loop the other end. It's a bit fiddly, but all I'm doing there is I'm holding it and it's just bent in half, and then it's bent again. So then you wrap it round once, then grab hold of that, go round second time, underneath each one, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times. Make sure your 6th one comes right back round. And then basically feed that end that you've been wrapping round through the hoop at the bottom. And then you gently pull one side of the top hoop until it pulls that hoop up inside, which is what binds it all. So then it ends up looking like that. And then what you do is the other piece, the other end of the string, you pull down. Take your time because you don't want to pull it all the way through. Until you've got a hoop that's big enough to just go round that cleat on the side of the boat. And when you've done that, make sure it's all tight. All I'll do then is cut the bottom off. Dab a little bit of super glue on that just so it doesn't all slip through. And then leave it to dry. So I'll do it one more time. So you've got your 30 centimetres of the string, and you just basically bend the string. So you just put in the 2 bits of string side by side with that one hanging down. Look. So that forms your top loop. Then what you do is you bring it back up. Again, you're not tying anything yet. You bring that string back up. So now you've got a loop at the bottom. And you wrap it around the top hoop once. Then I'm changing my angle so you can get the angle for wrapping it round further. And go 1, so that's the second hoop, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then when you come round for what would be the 7th time, you put it through from the top through the bottom hoop. Right, now this is the bit where you need to kind of hold everything. Make sure you've got a grip of it. And the top hoop, if you pull one side of it, one pulls this string through, but we want it to close that hoop at the bottom. So you pull the other side through. And that's what pulls that into that tight noose. And then all you do is on the other piece of that hangs out the bottom, you pull that gently down until you've got the hoop just big enough to go around that cleat on the side of the boat. That's about big enough. And then you can just cut the ends off fairly close to the knot. A little bit of super glue on it just so it doesn't pull through or do anything daft, because you don't want it going back through on itself. And then you can just lie that down to wait with the rest of them. And like I say, you need to make 8 for one boat. So obviously I've got to make quite a few of these. So it made sense to be doing it while I'm waiting for something else. So what I'll do now is I'm going to carry on with the painting and carry on making these nooses, and then I'll bring you back. Right, well, I'm still waiting for my spray can to give these another quick spray. I've soldiered on with my gunners for the Higgins boats. They're nearly done, but I'm waiting on the Wolf Grey just to catch some bits of the gun shields. So what I've decided to do is dip my ropes and get them ready, because they look too pristine at the minute. And luckily I've got a tin of soft tone, and all I'm going to do is just dip them in here. And just roll them around on this paper to get the thick of it off. And when that dries out, that's going to look a lot more weathered. And that'll do, really. It's as simple as that. But if you compare it to the ones that I've not dipped, look, you can see, you know, just how bad that's going to look. If I put the white ones on, they're going to look far too pristine. That's going to look like it's been dangling down and getting splashed by the sea over and over again. So, like I say, you just want to get the thick of it off though, because you don't want too much on. Alright, so that's that one. I mean, I've jumped a stage here. Obviously, I don't need them yet, but you know, it just saves sitting around waiting for things. I've got another couple of jobs that I'm going to drop over onto when I've done these. So it's just a little filler, really, and it gets me a little bit nearer to being finished when the paint arrives. Right, so it's time to grime these Higgins boats up a little bit. The first thing I'm going to start with is some of my Humbrol powders, and I'm using a rust one at the moment. I just want to put a few rust marks here and there coming down from the rivets. Not doing anything very big. It's only little tiny streaks, but it'll all add to the effect. I'm going to put a bit of grime on here as well. okay for the rust, I think. I am going to use another one of my Humbrol powders, and that's this one, Smoke, which also works really well as an oil. Ow. See what I mean? Doesn't matter how little I try and tip out, I always end up tipping out too much. This one I definitely don't want to overdo, because you know it can quickly get too overpowering. Just putting a little here around the engine hatch. Some thin traces on this bit as well, where the boatman fit. Just a tiny bit around the hatches as well. So what I'm doing now is I'm using some of my Flory grime wash just to make these look a little bit more, I don't know, used, oily, greasy. Just not like they're freshly painted, basically. Right, I'll get the other one done and then I'll bring you back when I'm at the next stage. Right, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put my ropes on that we soaked earlier. So just put the rope around the cleat, and then obviously it's going to stick up. So what I'm going to do is just put a little blob of glue where I want it to be. And just hold that there while it sets. And that's what it's looking like. Put the next one on. that's the second one in place. There you go. So that's the 3 down that side. And then just do the same on the other side. And we're getting nearer to completion. Right, I'll crack on and get these other 2 done as well. And then I'll bring you back. I'm still waiting on the paint, unfortunately, for the other ones. It's a shame because they only need one quick blast really now. Because they have had a coat. But they just need another one. The men are almost ready, but again, I'm still waiting on the wolf grey paint. But hey-oh, we're getting nearer. Right, my paint's arrived, so I was able to finish my figures. So here's 2 of them on the boat. Now, I know a lot of people glue these in. Maybe I'll end up regretting it. But I haven't glued mine for now because I thought I'd like to be able to pose them in different angles, you know, with their guns. So for now, I've not actually glued them in place. No doubt the first time I tip the boat up and they fall out and break, I'll curse myself. But for now, that's how I've left them. So basically this boat is just about finished. The only thing left, and that's holding me up really, is I've ordered some transfers, some water slide transfers in white, because I was looking at the beginning of Saving Private Ryan, purely for research, obviously, purely for research, and I thought, oh, there's their numbers. So I'm actually going to use the numbers from the 3 Higgins boats that you can see at the beginning of Saving Private Ryan. I thought, why not? I mean, I'll probably use these on British beaches as well, but it doesn't really matter. You've got to put something on there, so that's what I'm going to do. So I've ordered some 9mm white slide-on transfers, and I should be putting one on each side of these 3 boats. I haven't decided on the numbers for the grey ones yet, but so it's finished, but I'm just waiting for those transfers. So hopefully if they come relatively soon, I can show you it at the end of the video. The other thing that came was my grey paint, so I was able to finish giving these a second coat. So these basically now are ready for the same weathering that I did to the Higgins boats. The other thing that I've looked at is these life rings that I put on. I've been looking at some of the colours of original World War II ones, and obviously you get some that come as they normally are, orange. But a lot of the war vessels I noticed, they weren't just orange, they were all kinds of colours, but mainly the ones I saw the most were grey, or whatever colour the ship was, or, you know, versions of that, grey and white, or the blue, pale blue in some cases. So for mine, I'm going to go with Army Painter Spaceship Exterior, which is a really light grey. And then what I'll do is I'll put the strapping on. I should just do that in a Necromancer cloak, which is that near black colour. They'd look great orange, but I just think, you know, kind of, I don't know, it'd be a bit too jarring, I think. So that's what I'm going to do. So I've put some out. just go paint the edge near the board. But I think this, you know, it makes it stand out, but not, you know, not as noticeable. It'll blend more in with the boat, I think. And if I just paint these in, you'll see that it's not too noticeable, but it'll look the part. Right, so that's basically what it's looking like. So it's not, you know, it's not going to come too much out at you, so it's not a bother. I've just got the other two to do now. So I'll get them done off camera and then we'll start the weathering process. Right, back in a second. Right, so it's time to put a little bit of rust onto this one now. It's going to be very similar to what we did with the other one. Just going to put some coming down from the rivets. I'm doing some just around the hole and some dripping down just a tiny bit, and then others where it's kind of streaked down. And do a bit of a variety, you know, so it don't look too uniform. Right, I'm going to add my clay grime now. Not doing anything too special, just slapping it on really. Let's get inside the boat as well, because that particularly wants it. What I'm doing is I'm just slapping it on at the minute, and then I shall brush it down. Always make downwards my last sweep, because then you get the right kind of streaks on it. Right. Let that dry on a bit. Right, now that I've panned it back a bit, look, you can see how different they look. So while this one's drying, I'm going to get this one up to the same state, and then I shall do some light rubbing on it to get, you know, where it's too heavy, I'll get that off. and hopefully just leave it, instead of that shiny grey, a muddy, weathered, rainy, grimy grey. Right, I'll bring you back in a bit. Right, so that's them looking all weathered. Fairly happy with the way they're looking now. They look like they've had a few tanks on board and have been on the rough end of the sea for a bit. As I showed you, these ones are all weathered, and the boatmen are in place. So that's going to be, you know, my boats for any D-Day games that I get to play. The only thing is now that I need to complete, and I'm probably going to have to bring you back for that at a later stage, because I think it's going to be at least 3 or 4 days before these transfers come. I didn't think ahead. So finally my 9mm and variants thereof decals have arrived, so I can now finish the Landing Craft. So what I've been doing is I've been cutting out the letters that I need, and basically I've took I've just basically played around with some of the numbers, but I've took 3 numbers from the first 3 boats that land on Saving Private Ryan, because they do follow a correct number pattern for those that actually landed. Another one from an old picture that I found of an American landing craft, PA 132, 13-2, and then I'm going to give that to that one, and this one I'm going to give it LCT 2047, which is what I saw on a British, British, it was a Juno landing craft for mechanised units. So that's where I've got my numbering from. Pretty sure that, you know, they're accurate, but obviously I took a little bit of license because these ones I can't find pictures to verify the numbers. I've just took them from Saving Private Ryan, but the others I have actually seen on old photographs, but they'll do because they match that, you know, the pattern of the lettering. Right, so what I'm going to do now is I'll tidy this bit away, and then we can start soaking the letters and pouring them on one by one. So I'll bring you back when I've done that. That's it. The 3 was really difficult, and I went ahead and put the other side on as well. But again, these are not like my ordinary, you know, the ones that you get with the kits. It seems like the letter lifts off of the slide altogether. There's no backing on it. So you've got to be very, very gentle with them. Unless you're lucky and you find better ones. I ordered these online. But overall, I'm pretty pleased with that. It seems to have come out okay in the end. Bring the next one down. Right, I'll crack on and do these, and then I'll bring you back when we're on the tank carriers. Well, I'm not even going to pretend that that was easy. because these decals that I've purchased online, it's basically just the letter. I don't know how much decaling you've done, but on the decals that come with our models, they tend to have the whole letter is a square of cellophane, almost, plastic. So when you cut it to that shape and you slide it off the transfer, it comes embedded in that sheet, which stops it curling. You imagine moving an S over or something of this, where it is literally just the letter. And not only that, because there's nothing to hold it firm, it's trying to curl up immediately on itself. So this took me a lot longer than I wanted it to, but I finally got there. But I'm glad it's over. And to be honest, that's the reason why I didn't film it, because I was muttering under my breath some. I can tell you that. But anyway, I let the perishing things dry, and what I did then is, because they looked too pristine, once they'd thoroughly dried, I just gave them another wash, with the clay grime, just to make sure, that they don't stand out too much. Oh, and the other thing that I've done, do you remember me saying about the boatman, the fact that I'd left them loose? Having nearly had an accident twice while adding the transfers, I decided against that. So now I've actually glued them in place, because I don't want them getting damaged now that I've done them. But as you can see, it beds the lettering in a lot more. Same on this one, look. And I left the other one with the P number from the photograph that I found. But they look a lot better with them being, mixed in with the wash. So all I'm going to do now, I'll do this bit again off camera, is I'm going to give them a coat of varnish. Possibly leave it for 4 hours and then perhaps give them another coat. Just, if nothing else, to protect the paintwork and to protect the transfers, because I don't want to ever stick them on again. I can tell you that. And what I'll do, I'll take a series of photographs and we'll wind up this episode, just taking a look at them. Right, back soon. So here they are. I've mocked up a little bit of scenery. My sand obstacles could do with a different coloured paint by the looks of it, but I'll get round to that. But the look in the part, I'm pleased with them. They're how I wanted them to look anyway. And I can't wait to actually, be gaming with them and actually do a beach landing. I hope you found it useful. It's a pity I had to separate it into 2 different videos, but I think it would have been too long otherwise. But anyway, I hope you found something useful. If you have, please consider giving me a thumbs up or even subscribing for when the next video drops. Right, I'll close this one up with a couple more pictures that I prepared, where I've added a bit of a sky background so it can, just makes it look more the part. Right, I'll leave you with that and I'll see you again soon. Bye.